Hello, and welcome to Firehouse Table Talks podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Toma. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran, and I'm also a career firefighter and paramedic with over 20 years on the job. On this podcast, the views and opinions expressed are those of the participants, and they in no way reflect the views or opinions of our employers. This podcast serves to give a unique peek behind the curtain into the lives of our nation's first responders, military veterans, and their families. These are their stories, raw and uncensored. Now, pour yourself a cup of coffee, pull up a chair, and join us at the table. Thanks for tuning in. Now, on to our show. Well, all right, on this week's episode, we have Deborah Green joining us. Deborah served in the California National Guard prior to becoming a police dispatcher in Sacramento, and then on to Dorado County Sheriffs Office, correct?
Yes.
And where you retired from after 30 years on the job as a dispatcher.
Technically, it was 30 years total law enforcement. I was 27 years with El Dorado.
Okay. Let's round up.
Yeah, let's round up. 30 years. That'll work.
There you go. So throughout her time as a dispatcher, Deborah handled thousands of calls and was on the board during the early morning hours of October 23rd, 2019, when El Dorado Deputy Sheriff was shot and killed while responding to a call in rural Somerset County. Shortly after the shooting, Deborah was diagnosed with complex PTS and is with us today to talk about her story of the struggles of living with complex PTS and life after. So, welcome.
Thank you. This is great.
So, California National Guard.
Yes.
And that was, when were you in the National Guard?
I joined in 1986 and went to basic training back in Alabama and school in Oklahoma.
How'd you like that Alabama heat? The humidity?
Alabama was fine. It was Oklahoma that sucked. Sorry, Oklahoma, if there's anybody there. I did not enjoy that state.
Well, they probably agree with you.
But then,
what was it you did in the National Guard?
I started out in communications. I was a radio, telephone operator, and repair person. So I fixed.
Was that when the seed was planted to become a dispatcher down the road, or?
Probably, yeah. When I came back so I got married, moved to Texas. My husband was stationed at Fort Hood. Divorced him, met my second husband, had a kid, came back to California. So we came back in 1990, and my husband at the time was deployed to Desert Storm, or actually it was Desert Shield that he was deployed to.
Yeah.
The precursor, yes. And then while he was gone, I went to military police school. And then my unit went over to Saudi Arabia, and I stayed here because I was still in school. Plus, I had the kids. So it was, at the time, they didn't allow married couples to go to the same theater. They kept me here.
So what was it like? So that was in the dawn of females being in the military.
Close to about, I mean, you had the waves and the whacks and all along, but back in the 70s, they were taken, came back into the regular military. They weren't their own separate. So yeah, it was rather new and different. But I really enjoyed my time there. And 1992, while I was in the academy for dispatch, I got deployed down to, they called it Operation Garden Plot, which was the LA riots. Yeah.
You were dispatched to deal with that whole fiasco.
Yes. So I because I was in the dispatch academy, I had my communication certifications also with the Army. I became the company dispatcher. So which was kind of interesting. Promotion. Yeah, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. No extra pay for that one. But
so that was like through like a mobile command center there, or how did they mobilize and communicate with all that going on?
We went into Long Beach first. We were assigned to kind of quell everything that was going on in Long Beach, because I mean, once it started, it just spread everywhere down there. Right. And we were put in a parking garage for our headquarters, because that was pretty much the safest spot they could put us in. You know, if they were going to shoot at us, we had all these 3 feet concrete walls to protect us.
Elevated, which was good. And a lot of concrete.
Yeah. So. But while I was pulling guard duty, I got shot at while we were there.
Oh.
Which was hazard pay. Yeah, exactly. And then they moved us
stuff you don't sign up for.
Yeah, exactly. You're signed up to defend against foreign enemies, not domestic enemies. That one's a surprise. So civil disturbance is part of the National Guard's job description. And so then after Long Beach, we went to downtown LA, and we became the company that did the guard for Parker Center, which is LAPD's headquarters at the time.
Okay.
And so that's where I did the dispatch duty, which I found kind of funny, because they sat me next to this huge plate glass window. And, it's like, really, you're going to put me there? I have, if somebody drives, I'm watching cars driving by, and it's like, are you kidding me?
I mean, you could have got a little bit of gallows humor and got like a red marker and drawn like a bullseye or something.
Oh, yeah, big bullseye. Shoot here.
Yeah, I don't think the supervisors would have.
But it was different. I think that was my first traumatic experience. So that started the Tower of Doom. Everything kind of piled on top of that over the years.
Yeah, it's a huge dog pile from there.
Yeah.
So how long were you there for the riots?
I think we're there 3 or 4 weeks. It was a long time.
Okay.
And what was funny was they gave us flak jackets instead of bulletproof vests. So those of us because being military police, a lot of the guys in the unit were cops off duty. So They all brought their second chance vests to wear underneath the flak jackets. And
like, I know this military surplus.
Exactly. I mean, the flak jacket's going to stop everything larger than a beer can. So,
yeah.
So I borrowed I borrowed my husband's second chance vest, and all those of us that were wearing double duty, because we had to like hide them because they wouldn't approve it. And so a lot of us, I lost 10 pounds over that time, because we were just sweating it out.
Yeah. That's a lot to wear. I mean, you might as well have been in the Middle East. It's probably the same temperature with all that stuff.
It was hot.
So from the National Guard, you went to dispatching for, was it Sacramento PD?
Sacramento PD, yeah. They had a awesome academy that was about 3 or 4 months long, which was really good. But
were you because able to get fast track since you already had those certifications? Were you able to get fast track?
No, it doesn't cross over, unfortunately.
Oh.
So, but because I got deployed in the middle of the academy, they kind of put me on hold. And then when I came back, they, I was the only person left that we had to put me through the rest of the academy that I missed. So, that was different. But,
how long were you with Sacramento?
11 months. I didn't pass probation with them, but, they gave me good recommendations for a smaller department. They said I would probably do well with a smaller, not as busy department, which I did. I stayed at the next department for 27 years. So I think that was pretty good.
Dorado County Sheriffs, was it?
Yes.
And where is that exactly?
That's just east of Sacramento. So it goes from about Sacramento all the way to Nevada. And
wow.
Yeah, it's a really big county. And
well, California is a really big state.
why, yes, it is.
So 27 years
27
with
years
Dorado.
with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys have call takers and dispatchers there as well, or how's the radio room broken up?
Yeah, but if it got too busy, if we were working the radio, we'd have to answer phones too. So it wasn't uncommon for me to be on a 911 call and dispatching at the same time on the radio. We had 2 radios at the time. One for Tahoe. So South Lake Tahoe is part of our county, and so we would do that, and then the rest of the county.
Gotcha. I don't know if I told you this. My niece, Abby, she was a call taker. She just got the dispatch position.
Oh, nice.
With Columbus. So
very
she
nice.
was pretty excited about that. And I told her I was going to be interviewing you, and she was pretty excited about it.
Oh, yeah.
She's been there a couple years.
Oh,
she
good.
Really likes it.
Yeah, Sacramento could have done us a solid by having us be a call taker first for a year and then putting us through the radio. But the way the way they work is everybody does everything. But one day you'd be call taker and the next day you'd be radio kind of thing. So it was different.
I think Columbus, again, I'm going to speak like I know what I'm talking about. So Columbus Police, they have the 2 tiers. So she was hired on and started as she did that for a couple years. And then I don't know if there was a test or not. Maybe I'll have her on one day.
I know Sacramento County Sheriff has that where it's 2 tiered.
Okay.
So
and I think she just found out just the other day that she got one of the dispatch positions.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
That is absolutely wonderful.
So 27 years as a dispatcher for a county sheriff. I'm sure you probably heard some things over the phone and on the radio.
Lots of things. Yes. And, because being in a rural county too, so we go from somewhat urban to national forest out in the middle of nowhere. We work with state parks. We work with Fish and Wildlife, Forest Service. So in the course of our, we work with a lot of agencies just, along with us. So it was quite different.
Take a breaking and entering call, and then the next one would be a bear getting into a trash can or something like that.
Yes, actually. we would have that, yes.
It keeps things interesting, I guess.
Why, yes, it does. Lots of bear calls. What else? I mean, it's pretty much soup to nuts,
Right.
If it had to come through 911, we got it.
First line of defense.
Even the UFO calls and the Bigfoot calls and.
No pictures though, right? Just
pictures. I keep trying though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in this age of cell phones, I mean, how have we not gotten a picture of Bigfoot?
I don't know.
So, trained in tactical dispatch, and you were also part of your CISM team?
Yes. Well, no, I went to CISM training.
Okay.
My supervisor at the time, and this was 2015, I think I went to that. I had just gotten back from open heart surgery, and she thought that it would be
stuff to talk about.
I know, lots of stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
I was having difficulties, and she thought it would be good to get that training in, and it really did help, believe it or not.
Right. Yeah, I mean, nowadays, I know a lot of departments still have the CISM, but the peer support I don't want to call it the new buzzword, but like individual peer support teams are starting to pop up within departments, and that's becoming like, I don't want to call it the new CISM, because CISM still has its place, but I guess peer support's kind of the same thing so I'm a member of the peer support team for Columbus, and depending on when an incident happens, we have a new app that we use, the whole department has access to, and everybody on the peer support team is on this app. and if they need to, they can call us anytime. And it's
oh, that's awesome.
So it's actually come a long way. Because I remember we had a couple incidents where, afterwards they're like, all right, everybody to the kitchen. And everybody sitting around the table, CISM comes in, and you just sit there doing this.
Oh, we didn't even have that. It was, they had called, we're going to go in, and we called them kumbaya meetings because it wasn't, it would be everybody involved in the incident with the therapist, rather than putting dispatchers together, putting patrol together, putting detectives together, which they did. They finally did on my last incident. But my first officer involved shooting, we didn't have any of that at all. I didn't know if he was alive or dead. I was driving home that night crying because I didn't know what was going on. And didn't find out until the next day. And
that's tough.
The only briefing that they had was the tactical briefing. And that was 3-4 weeks later. And I mean, there's
like a final debrief.
Right. What went, what was good, what wasn't good. And I made sure to speak up at that time, going, hey, going home, I was a danger to myself and others because I didn't have that communication, whether or not, what was going on. Nobody thought to call us about it. And
it's funny, I've been with Columbus for 21 years, and just in 21 years to see how much it's changed. So we had CISM when I first started, but you were there before that even existed. So just to see how much it's changed in the culture slowly, it's still an uphill battle sometimes. But it's coming along, and definitely, I was very pleased to see that symposium I went to Friday. I went last year was the first year ever, and it was a good crowd. Don't get me wrong, but this year it was wall to wall people. The crowd was easily twice the size, and I think people are starting to get it now.
That's great. Yeah, and that's what we need.
This is a big problem.
Is my goal is to get all the sheriffs and chiefs of police and all the fire chiefs in one big room and smack them around a little bit and say, hey, we got a problem, dudes.
Make sure you video that. I want to see it.
Because
a lot of the administration starting to see it and get it, and I don't know how many suicides it's going to take for them to say, whoa. And I mean, all you really have to do is look at the stats. We lose more by suicide than ever in the line of duty.
We do. And we've lost 2 at our department to suicide after critical incidents. And it's not, one is too many. One is definitely too many, and they need to pull their heads out of their backsides and realize that they need to, they're the leadership. They're the ones that have to take charge. They can't rely on us line staff to do everything because, we need that support from administration.
It seems to be gaining a lot of momentum. I know it is here in Ohio, hopefully around the country. I mean, you've got all these speakers that go around and talk about it. And it seems to be more and more prevalent. You're hearing more and more about it. And the stigma, some of these guys, it's hard to break through that shell of, well, we never needed it before. They always say firemen hate 2 things: change and the way things are now.
Luckily, all of us crusty old people are retiring. So hopefully these new young pups are going to take charge and do this.
I hate to say it, maybe that's the key is, they grew up, talking more about their feelings, and they seem to be more in tune with their mental health than the older population. I mean, I'm a Gen Xer, and, they're like, oh, rub some dirt on it. You're fine.
Exactly.
They got thrown back in games with concussions or probably broken bones, and just, well, you're fine.
Drank from the water hose out in the front yard. Yeah, we were,
lead paint. We weren't scared of anything.
Nope.
So you touched on it, open heart surgery in 2015.
Yes.
Was that from a heart attack?
No. thank goodness, no. But
Oh, okay.
I was born with a congenital heart defect on my aortic valve, and they didn't
Okay.
discover it until 2015. And by that time,
Well,
it
we need to
was
fix it right
my
now.
cardiologist looked at me and said, "Why are you even standing?" And I went, "Oh, I guess it's bad." So
You know what? We're gonna go
from
ahead and take you back right now. I mean,
yeah,
you're
we're
here. We'll just
gonna
take you
go
right
fix you right now. And so yeah, so I have a new heart valve, and well, not new. It's been what 9 years this year.
Yeah,
So
you're almost coming up on 10.
yeah, and
Things
so
good since
so
what did you were
far,
you having any symptoms or anything from it?
well, I was diagnosed with a mitral valve heart murmur when I was a baby. And usually with heart murmurs, you have difficulty breathing, and you have to slow down a little bit. And so I joined the army. Yeah. um but I had like shortness of breath a lot, and I couldn't run long distances. Uh but nothing out of the ordinary. And and I smoked, which was yeah, had been smoking for 30
Everybody smokes.
years. And yeah, so the
Yeah.
doctor just said, "Yeah, we're going to go fix that." So
Well,
I
everybody smoked then. Smoking was cool.
that was the thing.
People
Yeah,
smoke on
so I
everything.
haven't had a cigarette since April 19th of 2015, and I've had a new heart valve since April 20th of 2015.
There you get taking care of it. That's a
Yeah.
good thing. How was
So
quitting? Was it pretty
well,
tough?
the first week's always the hardest, but I was on morphine in the hospital and unable to go
That
outside
makes it a
and
little
smoke,
easier.
so it made it a lot easier.
I smoked while I was in the military, and my big thing was lifesavers. Every time I craved a cigarette, I went
Yeah.
to like the warehouse club and got a big bag of the lifesavers. I'd go through one of those bags a day just chewing on those things.
Yeah, every once in a while I'll have a dream that I'm smoking and I wake up and feel guilty.
Oh, that wasn't me, was it? Did I do that?
Yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
So the surgery was 2015, and then I believe it was the middle of the night, October of 2019 is when you had a pretty bad
had
incident.
had the basically my guys were ambushed out on the call. They went to a suspicious subject in a marijuana grow. The caller lied to us as to what was actually going on there, and they walked into the cartel representatives being out in the grow and shooting.
Do they
So,
suspect that the caller lured the officers there, or
oh,
was it
they
just kind of a
basically what the cartel has done is go to all these people that are growing for themselves here in California and made deals with them to grow extra for the cartels. And the cartels will come up during harvest season, which is October, and get their cut. And this guy didn't want to give him his cut, and so called it in. So he knew who they were, and he knew why they were there, and he called us to have us come out and take care of his problem.
and it all went to hell.
And it all went to hell. Yeah.
So do you
So
mind talking about a little bit about what happened on that, or I mean, if it's too painful, I'm okay.
it was really well, I was out on a break. So I had dispatched them out to the call, and I had sent two guys, and then, your dispatcher spidey sense kicks in and goes, "Hey, I think we might need to send somebody else out there." So I sent a third unit, only I did it silently so that the sergeant didn't hear it. And he calls up and says, "Send a third unit." And I said, "It's already been done." And he goes, "Okay." And I went out on my break, and I'm walking the parking lot, and all of a sudden I get a text saying, "We need you back up here now." And I'm like, "Okay."
No.
So I'm running on up and get in there for the second transmission of shots fired. And that's and you could hear the gunfire in the background. Um that's about when we lost communication with Brian, and we tried several times to get him to, thinking that maybe he was in a position he couldn't talk, but we were trying to get him to at least key up the mic on his radio so that we could hear, know that he was okay, and that never happened. he had a ride along with him who was from another department. So he was also armed, and he did get shot also, but he was just injured. But I honestly believe if he hadn't have been there, that we probably would have lost more than one of them that night.
Was it just one suspect on the scene, or were there
No,
multiple?
there were two.
Oh, okay.
And so they called an 1199, which is officer in dire need, officer down situation. And basically, I asked everybody in the room to get me the world, and outside agencies, and I had the county south of us was closer than some of my other units, so we had them coming up from the south. We had units coming from Tahoe. We had CHP units. We had anybody could spare was coming on up, and air support was on the way, and calling in SWAT team and everybody. We start making phone calls, and pretty much if you're not on duty and didn't just get off of work, then you're coming in.
Yeah, I've been on a few of those with firefighter and trouble calls, and they send the world.
Oh yeah,
it's amazing. I mean, the very first one I was on, it was a deteriorating situation. I don't know that it was definitely, I don't know that it was warranted or not, but the person I was with felt that it was, so they called for it, and I turned around, and within seconds, half the department standing there.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
We're good. Thanks for coming, though. You hate to see that, but if you need it, it's there for a reason.
So things went. I sort of remember people coming in. The chaplains were coming in. I stayed on that call for 3 hours. Before we got the second suspect in custody, and then by that time my relief was standing behind me, and
kind of hard to leave in the middle of it.
She kept trying to, and I said, not until I get this second guy. I said, no, after he's in custody, you can have it.
Closure. Did you feel like there was like a sense of closure to it?
Well, and there's continuity too. You want, if you've got one person working the incident, it's better. You don't have to sit and brief somebody on all the minutia that's going on. And so it was just easier for me to get this second guy into custody and then give it all to her. But yeah.
So I know that was probably a huge CISM moment, and
oh my gosh, yeah.
Came in and
we had chaplains there. The chaplain didn't know how I was doing this, because in the middle of all of this, somebody, when he was at the hospital and declared, somebody at the hospital who was not law enforcement, we don't know who it was, and they posted on Facebook that a deputy had been shot and killed. So luckily somebody from our department saw it and called into dispatch and said, before you guys see this, this is what happened. And so my lead came over and told me what happened. So I'm crying. I'm a mess, but I still have a job to do. And the chaplain standing behind me going, I don't know how you're doing this, because I'm just sobbing, but yet I was having perfectly clear transmissions go out. And it's like, I don't want them to know that he's dead yet. It's not time. Right. They have a job to do out there. And if they know he's dead, somebody's going to misjudge something and they may get killed. So, it's kind of like you've got to weigh what's going on.
Well, I mean, it takes a special talent and to be able to go through that without relaying your emotions over the air too.
Yeah.
I don't think I could do it.
It was tough. It was really tough. And once I got relieved, I went down the hall into the stairwell and just cried for a while, just to get it out, and then kind of walk like a zombie around the building, And then I finally had a one of my peer support guys came in and just kind of gave me a big hug, and we walked and talked for a while, just so that I had somebody there with me, and they made sure somebody was with me for a while. and that I was able to make phone calls to people. There were a couple people that I had to let know what was going on. And then about, oh gosh, it must have been 5:30 in the morning. Somebody goes, "Have you called your husband yet?" And I go, and I'm looking at the time going, "Oh, no, no, no. We don't wake up Mr. Green at this time of morning."
Yeah, he can wait.
I said, I want him to be there for me, but I also need him to make sure he has enough rest so that he is there for me when the time comes.
Right.
So I did eventually call him, and but yeah, I made sure he got a full night's sleep before he had to deal with all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
But
so let's see, that was 19 and you retired, was it 2021? So a couple more years after that.
Yeah, I lasted about a year at work.
How was working after that event?
It sucked. I was crying to and from work. I had a supervisor that was less than friendly. Let's put it that way. Didn't have the training to deal with a traumatized psyche. She took me down the disciplinary route when I started to have anger issues. So I held on as long as I could. I really did. And because I was supposed to retire this year. At least that was the plan. So I had another supervisor get a hold of me, and we went in her office and talked, and she gave me a big stack of paperwork and said, "Here's your workman's comp paperwork. You are not to come out of this office until it is done and you've made the phone calls you need to do, because we want you to retire from this job and not be fired." And I said, "Okay." And yeah, so I went out on workman's comp. The psychiatrist signed me out just about a year after the incident.
So you had mentioned you were having anger issues at work.
Yes.
Any of that spill over at home? I mean, I've dealt with a little bit of that myself, and anger is definitely one of the big symptoms.
Yeah, anger, survivor's guilt, a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety. You know, you come from this huge trauma in October, and we went into COVID lockdown in March. And so you're taking this person who had all this stuff, because we were going out. We could go out on the weekends. My husband and I would drive. We would do things on the weekends. And then we're going to sit in a box. And for somebody who has had a PTS injury, to go and have to sit in a box and do nothing but watch TV, or who knows, I mean, what was there to do? There wasn't that much to do. And yeah, it was tough.
The whole COVID lockdown damaged a lot of people. Just
yeah,
we're social creatures. We want to be around people, and you tell everyone, no,
well, and you can't go
anybody.
to therapy in person. So it was, trying to get. So there was a very long stretch of time I wasn't in therapy because they were still trying to figure out that the telehealth. Mm-hmm. For everybody, because that's,
Yeah, the dawn of Zoom calls and telehealth. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was
still kind of going through my bouts of it right about the time COVID kicked in. So in a way, I was kind of happy because I was going through that isolation phase where I'm like, I don't have to be around people. It's kind of good.
Well, yeah, it was good. It was bad. I couldn't see my therapist in person, which I really enjoyed going to see her in person. Just having that back and forth. And so, there was a long stretch of time where they were trying to figure stuff out. And so I'm finally back in therapy. And so now I don't have to leave the house to go to therapy. I could,
they've perfected all the video calls. I mean, look at what we're doing. It's awesome.
Here. And so yeah, so that was my year. It was really tough, and having to deal with COVID and all the things that go along with the trauma and officer involved death. Just everybody changed at work, and it was different. Was
there a lot of turnover at your department after that happened?
the 4 people, 2, 3, 4, the 5 of us. So out of the 5 people on that call, 1 passed away. And the rest of us, none of us lasted more than a year. So that's 5 people on 1 call, and it just spirals out from that. And then right after I retired, we had a suicide at the department also. And
that's bad.
He was in training when,
I think here yesterday.
Yeah, he was in training when the incident happened. So, that it takes its toll.
Right, it affects everybody a little different.
Right.
And the funny thing is, like, some people hide it so well. Once you kind of go through it, you can kind of look at people, and once you've been silently suffering and get the help you need, it's almost like the Matrix. You can look at other people like, hey, pal.
Oh, yeah.
I know you. I see it.
Yeah.
It's like they're wearing that mask. So when I was talking to my wife about the issues, it's kind of like, I forget what the commercial was on TV, but it was for, I think it was an antidepressant. But the person would talk with somebody and then they held up the little smiley face mask.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you could see people doing that. Oh, hell, I did it.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I did it for years.
Happy, you're laughy, jokey, but you're just dying on the inside. It's not the best way to live. Because
I've been in therapy since after my heart surgery, because I had issues with my heart surgery, because that's a trauma in itself. So I was in therapy when this happened. But had I not been, knowing how bad I was after this, being in therapy, I could imagine what would have happened had I not been in therapy.
Yeah, probably would have been a whole lot worse. So therapies seem to be the answer for you. Everything's going well for you, I assume?
Everything's going well. It took me a little bit of adjusting after I retired. But my grandson was born in September of 2020. So after my psychiatrist signed me off, I started watching him so his parents could work.
That'll be
and gets me out of bed every morning, let me tell you.
Now, did I read, how many grandchildren do you have?
I have 10.
10?
I have 10, yes.
That's a lot.
My oldest will be 19 this year, and my youngest are turning 2 this year.
Oh, you run the whole gamut.
Well, it helps when you have stepsons that are older, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like police department, you need the backup.
I have 1 stepson that has 5 kids, and one of them has 1. And they're living back east, Texas and Mississippi. And then my daughter out here has 3, and then one of my sons has 1. And my biological son has no kids. So these are all stepkids, and I just love them.
There you go. You got your own soccer team, pretty much.
I do, it's great.
Well, that's awesome. Deborah, is there anything else you want to talk about that we didn't cover?
Well, there's let's see, the 911 Saves Act that is supposed to be going through Congress, which is going to give dispatchers federal recognition as first responders and change our job classification from clerical to actual dispatch
Who is the one that technically says you're not a first responder? I would like to meet that person.
Who knows?
I think it takes a lot more to be on a phone with somebody and not be there. I don't think I could do it.
It's yeah. Listening to somebody get stabbed or shot is not fun.
Yeah, you guys are the ones that get the phone call. You guys are the ones that send everyone. You're the ones that paint the picture for us. So hopefully when we get there, we have a little semblance of an idea of what's going on.
Right.
It's not always the case, but it's better than just saying, oh, yeah, there's a sick person.
Yeah.
When you get there and some naked guy comes running out at you with a knife, it's...
Not that we haven't had that before.
Once or twice.
Yeah.
Maybe more than once. The funny thing is you talk to civilians about the stuff you see, and it's you almost just want to say, you have no idea.
They always ask me, what was the worst call that you've ever had? And I tell them, and just the look on their face is like, oh, I really didn't want to hear that.
I did that for a while, kind of when I was going through my crap, and, God bless them. They ask because they just want to know. They don't live in this world. It's a different realm. And I would pretty much say, if you want to know, I'll tell you. And you, like you said, you tell them, some of the worst stuff you see, just for the shock factor of the look on their face. Like, hey, you asked, you wanted to know. There's a lot of evil in this world when you go to bed that you don't know exists.
Absolutely. And just,
it's probably better that you're ignorant to that fact. I don't want to say maybe naive to that fact. You don't know the evil that exists in the dark.
Yes, absolutely.
So there's people like us that go out and deal with it regularly, and some of it's funny, some of it's not, but it all takes its toll eventually. But so the 911 cares that you have to know from all law enforcement and fire departments, you guys have always been the first responders.
Yeah, I call us the first responders.
We don't need a congressional act to tell us that.
No, but it helps. It helps with.
Does it help with benefits for you?
Yeah, it'll help with benefits. It'll help with giving us. So right now, there's a lot of dispatchers that are civilian, that are run out of civilian companies. That this will give them better benefits through workman's comp and things like that.
Okay.
And then there's also something else going through Congress that I still I'm trying to do research on, but it's going to affect all first responders having better access to mental health care.
That's always a good thing.
So, and that's at the federal level also. So, this is good. These are good things that are starting to come through. It's just getting them passed is going to be the difficult thing right now.
Right. But, a step forward is a step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
None of this stuff happens overnight. So, like you said, hopefully it's getting better day by day, the mental health awareness and breaking that stigma of actually thinking that you're a weaker person because you talk to a therapist, or you actually can say, hey, I need a break. I've seen some bad stuff. And, sometimes with this job, you see something really horrific. You don't even have time to process it. You're going on the next one.
Exactly.
Who knows? That one could be just as horrific, if not more horrific, than the one you haven't even processed yet.
Yeah.
So coming home one of those questions.
A lot of my triggers are auditory. So, where when you have patrol cops and firefighters, theirs are a lot more visual. So if I hear something, it'll set me off. So like balloons popping is a bad one. Fireworks on 4th of July and New Year's, those are bad. And I thought, so I went that 4th of July this last year, I thought my husband was home, so this was good. The past couple ones I've been alone in the house, and has not been good. But I thought, okay, I'll go outside. He's home. He can help me deal with this. No, I went outside and somebody was shooting off illegal fireworks, and one just kind of buzzed by my head. And it's like, okay, I'm going back inside now. Where's the Xanax?
Hey, you tried.
I did try, but yeah.
Facing some of those, your triggers and the stuff that, really set you off, facing it, I think sometimes you do that to test. I want to see how better I'm getting. I don't know why. One of mine is, again, I'm still not a huge fan of going. I have a very small social circle, but even going to the grocery store.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. Just no one's paying attention. Everyone's in their own little world.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to dial back that hypervigilance where I try not to sit everywhere I go looking at the door. I'm always aware of where my exits are.
Yeah.
It's very hard to turn that stuff down.
Oh, it's extremely hard. And, I'm doing a walk with my grandson is stressful because I'm always afraid somebody's going to pull up on the side of the road right next to him and grab him. I mean,
Now
this is not a normal thought.
Yeah.
This is not normal.
But it's us. I mean, it's the way we're wired, and I don't know. It's weird. For people that don't know, it's hard to even explain, but
it is. It is. It really is.
Well, it has been great chatting with you. It's hard to believe it's almost been an hour already.
I know, right? Look at that.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
So I will try, I don't know if you have a link to that act. If not, I'll find it and I'll put it in the show notes when I do the editing for this.
Oh, I have a link tree on my Instagram. So that goes to
link for your link tree.
There you go. That goes to Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and LinkedIn.
You got all the socials covered.
I do. Facebook, though, continues to be private.
I wonder why.
Sorry, guys. Yeah,
sometimes you gotta have that.
Yeah.
Have your own little circle.
Yeah, and I make TikTok videos. I do a inspirational quote every day that I can. From where the sidewalk ends, which is actually the end of the sidewalk that we walk to every day. There's a big, wooden thing preventing you.
Book?
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, so it's where the sidewalk ends, and then we walk to where the sidewalk ends, and I do a TikTok.
I remember that book from when I was a kid. Where the sidewalk ends.
Yes.
All righty. Well, it's been awesome sitting down talking to you. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah. Anything else before we go?
No, just, everybody take care of yourself and find that therapist before you actually need it. Because
okay, there's one last good question. So somebody looking into getting into the field. There you go, talking about therapy. I mean, being the ones on the call, and there's essentially no control on what's going on the other end of the phone. You're there. There has to be a sense of helplessness because you can only listen and talk when something's going on.
That's right.
So if somebody were to be interested in this career field, I mean, talking or maybe engaging with the therapist early, would you say that's a pretty good idea?
If you're starting in the academy, fire academy, police academy, start then. Start looking for your therapist then, because you never know. I mean, it could be that day that you're out of, that you're on FTO, that first day you're at the station, you could have that trauma. And you want to make sure to have things established before then. And, learn about. It's
not a matter of if, it's a matter of when with these jobs.
It's when. Yeah.
It's going to happen.
My first 911 call was a mom screaming because she found her daughter had committed suicide in a bathtub. So yeah, it's not if, it's when. And none of us get out of this profession.
Training can only prepare you for so much. They cannot prepare you for something like that.
Yeah. And that's it. The mental health training needs to start in the academies. It really does.
I agree. But, that's actually a good point.
I'm
going to check with our academy staff and see, because I know our peer support team talks with our recruits and cadets and make sure that they know that there's resources available.
But it's gotta be a lot more than just an 1 hour or 8 hour class. You need to have like a good week to go through everything, peer support, critical incident stress management, depression, anxiety, symptoms of PTSD, so that you not only see it, you possibly see it in yourself, but see it in your buddy, your partner that's right there. If you're seeing something, and who better to tell that person than you, saying, hey,
also even
dude.
For supervisors, because like you said, when you first started showing those symptoms, they started going down the disciplinary route for you because they probably didn't know. She
didn't know. Or care, but that's a whole nother story for a different day.
There's people like that out there. So you and I both know that people like that are probably the ones that need the help the most.
Correct.
And they just won't get it.
Right. Right. And be your own advocate. Don't be afraid of saying something if you're having struggles, reach out to somebody. There's lots of helplines, and 988 is an excellent resource.
Yes, it is. Crisis lines, 988. I mean, you don't even need to talk to someone. I mean, you can text a therapist now on your phone if you need to.
Yeah,
but I think that's a great takeaway too. Is seek therapy early before you get that bad run.
Yeah, and that way you have the tools. Because I had the tools when this happened to me. I knew that I had to make all these therapy appointments right away to help me out, even though, you know, in the end it helped, but it didn't help. But, you know, I had the tools and the wherewithal to get that started.
That's good. I'm glad you're enjoying retirement.
I am.
I appreciate your time. It's been great talking to you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. If you enjoy what you heard, be sure to drop us a follow. We'll try to release a new episode every other week. If you feel so inclined, take a moment and give us a review. Your support only serves to make this podcast better. And if you know of any first responder, military veteran, or family member who you think would be a great guest for us, drop us a line. Our email address is firehousetabletalks@gmail.com. Be safe, look out for one another, and we'll see you around the table next time.
'Cause after time around the firehouse kitchen table, we can go home to the ones